Hello and welcome to the Gamers Table Independent Edition. It is Friday and we're reviewing Tears of Existence, the game of dimensional epitome.
It's a roll and move, basically, and it's a long one. Tears of Existence is the game of dimensional epitome. Anyway, combining game elements such as tactical card play, innovative game board design, and traditional roll the dice and move a token with an unprecedented level of nuance for a board game, Tears of Existence is a game family and friends can truly enjoy. The traditional roll and move game mechanics provide older players a level of comfort while learning the newer game's style of gameplay. Fate Harvest cards allow multiple strategies in conjunction with the squares of the game boards. The blend of novel and traditional gameplay allows veteran players to reminisce whether playing casually or competitively with family and friends.
Starting off with the game boards. Here are the game boards.
Oh.
The pieces are the squares. They're fairly big. There's enough room to get several pieces on them,
which is good because you can have several pieces on one.
And some of them have written on what they do, but some of them don't, which means you're going to go to the rule book. Then we have the deck of cards.
The deck of cards is probably one of the better things about this game. Because there's a good variety in here of things you can do,
as far as powers and text.
And it gives you a little bit more control, whereas normally you don't have any.
But the psychedelic bong hit backgrounds make it almost impossible to read some of these cards.
Oh God, yeah. Some of them are just terrible. They're so jumbled or cluttered looking. It's just hard to make a text out.
Next up, we have tokens that come in 5 different flavors. There's your big bowling pins. There's your avatar type dudes. There's your little bowling pins and your halmas. And every person has a different type of the 5th piece, which is your
Marauder.
Thank you, because I couldn't remember the damn word.
It's the monster.
Okay, and that comes in 6 colors. And the last thing we have to do for components is the dice, your standard dice. One of them is purple. You get extra bonus points for that. Lucky, you weren't getting many points before purple died.
Yeah.
In case the phases are a little bit confusing for you, they got a handy dandy spinner so you can point to which phase you're on.
Except it's really hard to read because the text, you can hardly see it on there.
That seems to be a recurring theme in this game, with a lot of background making it harder to read.
There's a lot of stuff in the box. I mean, that's the sort of thing you like when you get a board game. There's a lot of stuff in the box. It's a heavy box. There's a lot of things in there. But unfortunately, with all the other things in there, there are problems. The biggest one definitely is the cards. I mean, take a look at this Eye Screamer. There's no way that you can hardly read most of what this says. If it looked readable on the computer screen, I mean, it might, but you need to fix it. You need to darken by 50% all your backgrounds. If your backgrounds on the Fate Harvest cards were this background that you used for the Fate Harvest on the board, these cards would be awesome. They'd all be easily readable, but they're not, so that's not a good thing. And that's extra. I mean, it's nice production value. It's nice that you've got a box for the cards, but it's not needed. They're going in the box. You're not going to take them on their own. They can't be played by themselves. So really, this is definitely in the overproduction category. You don't need this. It's just money that people are going to have to spend to get something that they are not going to use. There's for me suggestion number 1. You could use one of the 18 by 18 regular board game boards and make the 4 tiers just 4 tracks on one board. Do away with all this. It really wastes a lot of table space when it could be 1, 2, 3, 4 tracks.
Yeah, it does fill the boards up though on each of them though. There's not a lot of extra space on either one of them, except maybe the 4th tier or something.
But you'd only need the nebula staging pile for each player. You wouldn't need it for each tier anymore because all the guys match
the tiers.
Tier.
Yeah, it's easy to see. You don't need extra ones.
Yeah, that's true.
What makes this game better than a simple just roll and move, do what the spot says, is the fact that they do have the cards. And also, I also like the Marauders. There's definitely some cool things going on in this game. I like the different tiers, that every tier has a phase of its own. It's kind of annoying when you're only on the first 2 tiers and everyone else gets turns on the other 2 tiers before you get to do anything. It can be a little bit frustrating that way, but there's not a huge amount of control there. There's the The only sense of control you get in this game is when you get a choice of pieces to move, or when you have some cards that can actually control where you move or if you can destroy somebody else's token.
You got 4 boards, each board representing a tier of existence. And you start out on the first one using your little Halmatite dudes. And you have to get 4 of these into a nebula space that puts you on your nebula pile. When you got 4 of those, you're allowed to put 1 guy on the second tier.
Or if
And you're rolling moving to try and do this.
Or if you're lucky enough, you can get to the wormhole construction, which on the first tier board is in the middle of one of the safe zones of protection. And it's really hard to get in because once you get into the zone, you need a 3 to hit the spot.
And you're rolling 2 dice, so that's not all that difficult. So easy, I should say. Then the second tier, you grab up your little bowling pins, and you're doing the same thing, moving around it, trying to hit the nebulas, but this time you only need 3 in your staging pile to allow you to put 1 guy onto the third board. Why am I using green? That's just
Keep
a bad
in mind
idea.
there's a wormhole on the second board as well.
Yeah.
But then you 1 guy to 3. Now on this one, you're only rolling 1 die, so you're moving slower, but it's a lot less spaces. And you need to get 2 of those guys into your nebula pile or hit the construction hut to move 1 guy.
The third tier, there's no construction one.
Okay.
It doesn't look like it.
Yeah. It's
To the
the board's small enough. You don't
Fourth
need
one. And the fourth one, again, you're going to be rolling die. Now, to complicate matters, we all have our marauders that we can get on the board. And the marauders just simply run around the board, stomping on anybody they go past and sending them back to start.
The Marauders are one of the highlights of this game for me.
Yeah, I
The
don't
Marauders
mind.
and the cards are what make this game interesting. Though
They had that little bit of
destroying
player
or removing, all it means is putting them back to the start, which doesn't really do much unless you manage to get both their pieces back to the start, at which point they have no choice when it comes to that tier. When they roll the dice, they don't have a choice between two
on
different
a
positions.
circular board, when you're just going counterclockwise all the time, it really doesn't matter too much. But yeah, when
you have
got
to
them
actually go clockwise in this game.
yeah, clockwise. But when you got them on 2 different spots, you get, like you say, you got a little bit more choice. But when they're on one, not so much. So it doesn't hurt that much, but it can be a little bit annoying.
So the rule book is a Word document or something like that. It's just all pages. There's no pictures. He does describe it. Everything is in here. We'll give him that. Everything you need to know about the game is in here. It's not organized the best. All the cards are even explained if you don't know what the card means. But the level, like extra boxes for the cards, extra spinners for what time it is, all the stuff you went in here, all the production value, the overly produced game for what this game is, and this is your rules document. With all of this is what you did, and then you came up with this. It doesn't seem like it fits. I'm assuming you've got another one in the works. I hope you have another one in the works.
I really like the fact that they went to the expense of making tokens for, like, these are just the tier 1 tokens. Here is the Marauder for blue, which is a cool elephant. Definitely some good ideas. The rule thing, while everything is in there, and even admits it's probably a little bit on the verbose side, and it is. It's not organized the best, but all in all, the rule book isn't that bad. It's certainly not the worst we've seen at the gamers table. One thing I gotta say
Pretty
about
simple.
the cards, they're hard to read, but on every card there's a little square silver box that's got letters in it. H meaning hold, T means play on your turn. I, if you get one of these, it has to be played immediately. And there's the P as well, which means with the P cards, you could play at any time. Well, there's the A that means any time.
It takes precedence.
So yeah, whatever card is played before it, the precedence goes first.
Yeah. Wrapping up for Tiers of Existence. Theme. You're trying to ascend to the 5th plane of existence. by playing a roll and move thing that goes on so long. There's not much of a theme there. I mean, it's sort of in the rule book, but you just roll and move your pieces and advancing them from one board to the next. Easy to play. It's roll and move. You roll, you move your pieces, and you do the things. You get some cards that will spice it up a bit, but you're basically roll and move your pieces. Some pieces kill, some pieces don't. Fun to play.
We actually had a little bit of fun playing.
But that's because we started goofing around and just being... The game itself, personally, I mean, I don't mind roll and moves, but a roll and move that's too long, and this is another one that it's too long. For what it is, this game is too long, unfortunately. So no, not fun to play. But you get the extra point for the purple die. I give Tears of Existence a 5.
Yeah, I'd agree with Craig there. It is a little bit too long. Maybe shorten the tiers by 1. Just keep it at 3 instead of 4. That would have sped it up a bit. But he does have elements that allow you to keep moving along, whether it's cards or landing on the construction spot or just by the roll and move to the nebulas to get more guys into the staging piles. There are ways to keep these things moving, and it does get a hair bit quicker as you go on because each tier is a little bit smaller than the previous one. So the farther you get up, the faster you start moving, and the engine starts going a little bit quicker. But still, shortened by 1 tier, and it would probably just fine for at least a roll and move. But considering we've played a lot more complicated games than this, it's not really for us. But I suppose if it were shorter, families, it wouldn't be too bad. There's a little bit more to it than, say, Snakes and Ladders and Sorry and all that stuff. But the graphics, the cards are terrible. It's really hard to read the text. Not a bad job on all the other background stuff. Is some neat effects. I guess they were done in Photoshop or something, but not bad. It's pretty, but putting what each space did on the board, if you had room, would have been a little bit nicer instead of having to look up in the rule book all the time. But really, like I said, there's not a great variety. Well, there's enough, but there's not so much that it's overwhelming that it just gets annoying to look at the rule book all the time. You'll get to know them after a while, so it's not too bad there. A lot of it's luck. There is a little bit of douchebaggery with the cards or something, but really not quite enough to make it that much more interesting. So I'm just going to give it a 6.
I had some fun with it only because of the douchebaggery the cards allow you to do by either moving a pawn a certain amount of space or eliminating pawns or stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. This, I suppose it's handy, but it's easy enough to keep track. Marauder first, then 4th down to 1st as far as the tiers. This is a little unnecessary, and it is a little bit difficult to read. So, I mean, it fits along with the cards. So, I enjoyed it. I didn't win, but I didn't really feel I had any control whether I won or lost that game. So, I mean, it's good for a family game. No one's hurt feeling. It's like, roll the dice. Oh, I guess I didn't win. That's too bad.
Well, you do get a little choice between your tokens to whether it hit somebody or not.
Well, yeah. I think there should be more penalty for when you get a piece destroyed, because you just move back to the start. So what? It's not a big deal. I'd like to see maybe you have to roll a certain sum on the dice before you deploy.
Or
a
if
new
it
guy.
knocked one back a tier instead of to the back of the start of this tier.
But that could still slow things down even more. So
well,
That's
yeah,
true.
but then you can eliminate the tiers
Mm-hmm.
or make it easier to advance through to the next tier, something like that. But as is, I give this game a 5.5.
So that's it for this episode of the Gamers Table Independent Edition. Tune in again sometime.
when you're able to
Yeah.
shoot some stuff, yeah.
When there'll be another review of another game.
Because that's what we do when we